Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream roundtable discussion on this, a Friday, February 6, 2026. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host is Sheila Gunn Reid. And Sheila, I gotta say, I might be violating HR protocol right now.
That never stopped you before.
That's the loveliest hairdo I've ever seen you sporting.
Oh, thanks. It's half wet. As I said as we were talking before we went live, I would be late 50 minutes for my own funeral today. So, but I'm here, and the show must go on. It is the panel discussion. I normally don't host on Fridays, but here I am. We've got some of our other staff busy, so call in the big guns, as they say. We'll tell everybody what we're doing here and how they can get involved in the show, and then we'll bring in our guest for the first portion of the show. And if you are in the firearms rights community the way I am, you know him and you appreciate his work on behalf of you. But we'll bring him in a second. If you're watching us on Rare, and it helps us keep the lights on here at Rebel News. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we're reading it on air. If it's under that, time permitting, and we appreciate you choosing us when there are a lot of other places that you could support with the few pennies the Liberal government leaves in your pocket at the end of the month. If you are watching us on YouTube, bear in mind that's the censorship platform I mentioned earlier. However, we remain miraculously remonetized over there. So if you want to leave a super chat, that's their paid chat over there. Same rules apply, but if you missed a live version of the show and you are moved by the Holy Spirit to support the little network that could, you can leave a paid comment called a super thanks. So let's bring in our guest today, who's going to do his best to keep us in our legal lanes on the issue of Toronto police corruption. And again, you know him. This is Ian Runkle, Runkle of the Bailey, firearms rights activist and fully fledged lawyer in his own right. So you'll be able to give us some legal analysis of the crazy story out of Toronto.
This one's insane.
Yeah. I mean, we sort of watched it all unfold just before we went on air, and then we reacted to it as we went on air. But Ian, give us a breakdown of what happened in Toronto yesterday.
So they've arrested apparently 7 Toronto police officers and 30 total people, it sounds like, from some reports. And the allegations are crazy. They're abusive police systems to get information, some of which it's alleged was then fed to hitmen to facilitate drive-bys and assassination attempts. Apparently this was connected to a targeting of a peace officer as well. There's suggestions that officers were taking bribes to help defeat law enforcement for the tow truck industry as well as illegal dispensaries. So there's an allegation that one officer was trafficking in cocaine, possession of prohibited weapons, all sorts of things. It's basically, hey, we found a whole bunch of organized crime, and it's us. We're doing the organized crime, which, is just absolutely crazy when you get right down to it, because, people sort of, all the time, people, on the firearm field say, well, you don't need a firearm, just call the police. And it's like, well, what if the police actually were the ones who sent the hitmen to your house?
Right. What an excellent point. It's true that one peace officer, I think is a corrections officer. The gangs, which includes the police in this case, allegedly, to his house 3 times in an assassination attempt in 36 hours.
Yeah. And if that person's out there, I hope they're applying for a carry permit, because the law does actually have provisions for carry permits. And quite frankly, I think that officer has the best argument for one that anyone has ever had, because it's like, oh, right, gangs have targeted this person 3 times. And one of the parts of the test that they put in is, well, that police protection is not sufficient under the circumstances. Well, if he gets any more police protection, they're likely to succeed. I mean, the police protection is the problem.
You know,
Right.
that's a great point, Ian. And I'll tell you, there's a litany of charges. They're all serious. But the worst one, as Sheila alluded to, was conspiracy to commit murder. And this was of an officer at a detention center. So that just rattles me to the core. I hope he does apply and gets that carry permit. But what I want to get to, Ian, you probably watched the presser yesterday, or at least you saw excerpts of it. In terms of that being a touchdown or fumble for law enforcement, where do you weigh in? And I should preface this by saying Lincoln Jay and I did go up to York Regional Police headquarters in Aurora, Ontario. And well, this was shocking because I've never had a problem with York Regional Police. We were not only not allowed into the presser, and I found out afterwards it was due to safety reasons, but we were told to leave the outdoor premises or face trespassing, which is really curious because I thought this was about restoring trust and doing a PR event and showing that the cops are our friends, not our enemies. But it was staggering. And in terms of this being a safety issue, correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, it looked like Chief Demkew and Chief McSween were wearing bulletproof vests.
Right.
And you know what? Let's talk about that. There's one of two reasons they were not wearing their traditional ceremonial outfits as police chiefs. One was to send the message that we're serious. We got our work gear on. We're going to get to the bottom of this, not leave a single stone unturned. I think they said that phrase 17 times. Can't see any stones. We're under like 4 feet of snow. Or could it be that the height of paranoia is so high that they don't know who's who in the zoo? They don't know if there's somebody in there that might take a pot shot at them. So let's talk about their apparel yesterday. Ian, your thoughts?
I suspect it's just the thing of we want to come out looking like we're badasses and so forth. But I mean, we should always celebrate when they do rout out corruption, because if all they get is grief over it, maybe they don't do it as thoroughly. But the other question is just how long has this been going on? Because this is not the first major corruption issue. Right. They had the senior case not that long ago. And the senior case just seems to illustrate that I can say I've had a number of current and former police officers in the area reach out to say, because I put out a video on this and they said, you don't know how deep it goes. It is way worse than it's being reported. So, I mean, if I was one of the people on this, task force, I'd certainly be taking safety precautions. Like, this is the sort of time where I'd be like, hey, the rest of the family, maybe you'd like to stay somewhere else for a little bit because, they seem to like drive-bys, this kind of thing, because all of this is very concerning. And when you've got people who are willing to take a shot at a corrections officer, I don't know because none of the details have been reported, but it seems likely that somebody was arrested and that corrections officer probably was, they decided they didn't like him for whatever reason and then decided to target him. It might be something like, we want you to traffic stuff into the jail, and the guy says no. Or it might be something like, he goes in and somebody who thinks that they deserve respect didn't feel that he was giving them the respect they were owed, whatever it is, but they decided to target this guy. Well, if they're willing to target a corrections officer, do you think they're not willing to target, say, a detective?
Right.
For sure. So I imagine there's a lot of officers right now who are feeling a little nervous.
And Ian, think of how perverse this is, that what you're alluding to, having some of those officers go into the witness protection program, not from the bad guys, but from members of law enforcement who are now rotten.
From what I understand, one of these officers was arrested on duty. Like he was picked up while he was on duty. And the Toronto police know that they have a public trust problem. And I think this doesn't make it any better, obviously. So this is an article from Global News, just a follow-up on what happened yesterday. They say a study completed by the Toronto Police Services Board last year found public trust in the force was, quote, strained. Yeah, that's one way of putting it. With many concerned about misconduct and the uneven application of standards. From the public, we heard similar concerns about mistrust, systemic bias, and a lack of visible accountability, which goes to David's point earlier. And they say repeated incidents of misconduct and social media narratives reinforce skepticism, especially among youth and newcomer communities. But I mean, this doesn't help anybody. And then, when we have the police investigating themselves here, that I don't think serves to fix the problem here. I mean, should an outside agency be doing the investigation here, Ian?
If nothing else, I think we need somebody else to check their homework, right?
Right.
Just even if they are the best people to investigate, there should be somebody else we need some accountability. And the Canadian system is one of the least accountable, least open systems. I sometimes cover U.S. cases, and U.S. cases provide a wealth of information. The public can look at it, and sometimes the public looks at it and goes, this case stinks. And sometimes the public looks at it and goes, this is excellent investigation. But the public actually gets to look in. And that transparency and accountability is something that our system really doesn't have. The police choose how much information they want to release. And the police seem to release more information when it's not an officer charged and less information when it is. But this is a concern. And one of the things I say of a fair bit is that good police officers deserve to work with good police officers.
Absolutely.
I have I'm not an anti-police person, but I'm an anti-police corruption person. And the best thing we can do for the good officers out there, the ones who are, upholding all of these things, is to protect them from bad officers and corruption that might otherwise drive them out. And when I said some police officers right now are going to be walking, with one eye over their shoulder, it's going to be the good police officers who have reason to be afraid, because the ones who are corrupt, well, they're just, they know they're okay. It's like,
the gangs have
fine.
them.
But Ian, can I ask you about the procedure itself in terms of the investigation? I thought the very best question asked at that presser that we were, of course, banned from attending was from our friend Joel Warmington of the Toronto Sun. And he basically put York Regional Police Chief Jim McSween on the hot seat by saying, you've uncovered all this corruption, all this serious crime occurring by Toronto Police Service officers, and you phone the chief of the Toronto Police Service, Myron Demkew. It's almost like tipping him off. B, doesn't this now put you in a conflict of interest? Aren't you compromising the investigation? Where do you weigh in on that?
I mean, it's really difficult. Who do you report these things to? Which officers can be trusted to be involved in an investigation and which can't? Because with some of the past corruption issues, one of the issues that came up with the senior case is they were concerned that they thought he was pulling information out of the police databases to tip off subjects of the investigation. So if you've got that concern, the problem is that the police have access to tremendous amounts of information, both on active investigations as well as on members of the public. And so how do you firewall it if it's all happening internally? How do you make sure that this is something where, the corrupt officers can't get a tip off by running their own name, for instance, or having another officer run their name or their plate or whatever else. So, I mean, in an ideal world, we'd have a separate police force whose job it is to investigate the first police. Yeah. But I don't think that anyone's going to put the money ahead for that. And also, just there's practical realities that would make that difficult. But it's really concerning. And people in Toronto, if you're an honest tow truck driver, it's a really bad situation if you're looking at it going, not only is there organized crime moving in heavily on this industry, but even the police who are supposed to protect us are in on it. How do we have any confidence? If I was a witness to an organized crime, something they were up to, it's like, well, if we can't trust the police, do I want to report this? All of this suppresses any sort of law enforcement interests. So they need to clean house in a big way.
I think being a tow truck driver in the Greater Toronto Area, it might be the most dangerous job in the world. I'd rather be fishing for Alaskan king crab. But Sheila, what I found appalling about yesterday's press conference, it was one police service congratulating another endlessly. And Chief Demkew of the Toronto Police Service, he never made any mea culpas. He never said the S word, sorry. He never said the phrase, the buck stops here.
Sure.
It was deflection and whatnot. And I want to go back to what you recited, Sheila, in the Global News article about, the public losing trust in the force. And one of the reasons was the uneven application of standards. Could that mean what we've seen for more than 2 years now in Toronto? We have had the pro-Hamas types chanting for genocide, displaying swastikas, cosplaying as terrorists. Nothing happens to them, but peaceful counter-demonstrators are arrested and incarcerated. Members of the independent media are arrested for trespassing, being on a public sidewalk and chronicling this hatred. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't say nothing happens to the Hamas people. On a cold day like this, the Toronto Police Service has a tendency to reinvent themselves as Uber Eats drivers and bring coffee and donuts to the haters. So Sheila, is that what this means, the uneven application of standards? In other words, the blatant double standards we've seen in this city for more than 2 years now?
David, is this a trick question? Like, obviously that's it. Like, obviously. Why are you asking me? The public sees that, and it does make them distrust the police. The police become people that they feel that they can't go to for help, that won't defend their rights as equally as they would the next person. I want to ask Ian, though, before we let him go on this topic, what does legally speaking, what does this mean for past convictions involving some of these officers, wherein they were witnesses in the case? Do these things get reopened? What happens now?
Well, the police made a statement that I thought was blatantly, bullshit, if I can say it.
Please.
What they said is, oh, well, this doesn't, threaten any past investigations. And of course it threatens past investigations. Every defense lawyer in the area is going to be pulling current and past files looking for the names of these officers. Yeah. And anybody, like, if you're in custody right now, this is there's people who will be bringing appeals saying, well, I was convicted on the testimony of this guy, and now we know he's a member of organized crime. So that would have been highly relevant to my trial, and there may well be trials reopened. There may well be people who are in custody now. And, people are going to be like, oh, criminals are going free. Well, maybe, because it's actually possible some of these people may be actually innocent because they were convicted on the word of somebody who,
a gangster?
Is a liar, who is so we may see massive shock waves with people going and having their cases reopened and re-examined. Certainly, if I was in the Crown's office and I had a case right now that hinged on one of these people, there'd be no way to actually proceed with it, because how do you, you're going to bring in your police witness and he's going to be in
Orange?
In prison orange? It's like, Officer so-and-so, and Like, wait,
so
what?
What you're saying, Ian, if you're one of those defense lawyers and you come across a case where one of those corrupt cops was giving evidence, I can only think of that community chess card in Monopoly, get out of jail free.
Grounds for appeal, for sure.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's always the government's burden to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, and that means that they have to have good evidence to do so. You can't have good evidence from a bad cop. It's, especially not when the allegations are this spectacular. So, officer, you found the cocaine in my client's glove box. Isn't it true you're currently facing charges for trafficking cocaine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it true you're currently facing charges for conspiracy to commit murder? Like, I would run that trial in front of a jury any day of the week, because the jury's going to sit there and go, oh, we're not going to convict on this. Where did the cocaine come from? Well, maybe it's the guy, or maybe it's the officer.
Right.
Maybe... And if you went in and suggested that this wasn't actually a real prosecution, but that this was the government, taking out a competitor, or the sort of the organized crime taking out a competitor or something like that, I mean, it becomes really plausible. A story that would have been completely lunatic, fanciful, like this officer is framing this guy on behalf of organized crime, suddenly becomes like, no, that could happen.
Right.
And Ian, that compounds the tragedy in terms of public safety, I think, because it's true. You can frame a guilty man. We saw that with the O.J. Simpson trial of yesterdecade. But, I want to get your thoughts on how do we fix this? Because my personal opinion, he won't step down. Demke likes that $400,000 plus salary plus.
Somebody wants to be the next Bill Blair.
Exactly. But if you were the mayor, if you were the mayor, if you were running the Toronto Police Services Board, which unfortunately is increasingly having closed door meetings where the public and the media are banned. Ooh, nothing fishy about that. But does it begin with the head of the snake getting rid of Chief Demke, not just for this, but for so many other issues under his watch, such as Toronto having a record crime wave?
There comes a point where if you've got too much corruption in a police force, you may be unable to deal with it without sort of clearing house. Yep. And the problem that happens is if you've got 10 corrupt officers on a force, they can push out the officers who don't want to be corrupt. And so that corruption can sort of steamroll where you see everybody who comes in is like, well, if you're not on board, you're going to be pushed out. And so long as you've got that critical mass of people who are hard to find, but when you start getting case after case like this, it means you've got that critical mass, and it means it's going to be hard to just sort of excise a tumor. It might be that the entire patient is sick. And so this might be one of those circumstances where it's like, we need to start bringing in, almost everybody from outside. We need to do a massive hiring and turnover blitz. The problem is that these things are very difficult to do. You've got police unions and so forth that will make it very challenging to do that sort of thing. So I don't see a solution happening anytime soon. As much as I have ideas for how it could work in practice, there's all these barriers that stand between it. But I think that there needs to be, when you've got a police force that has corruption issues on this scale, I don't see how you can sort of do a surgical approach, because you can never be certain you've got it all, right? It's always going to be a case of, and so, my prediction at this point is within the next 10 years, we see another big bust like this. Wow. Because
this stuff metastasizes.
Yep.
And Sheila and Ian, we're almost out of time. Last question to both of you. How do you restore public trust in the police, or can it be restored? I have no doubt And listen, I get it. There's more than 8,000 police officers with the Toronto Police Service. Of course, they're not all corrupt, and some of them are very hardworking men and women. I get that. But I'm telling you, with this kind of publicity, with these factums coming out, I wouldn't be surprised the next time somebody is pulled over, say for speeding or a minor traffic violation, the driver says, shouldn't you be doing a drug deal right now, officer?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, so can it be restored? And if so, that's public trust I'm talking about. How long does it take for this wound to heal?
Well, I think the big thing is we need some sunlight, some transparency, show your cards a little bit as to, here's the problem, here's what we're doing to fix it, here's how we're supporting good officers, here's all of the steps we're taking. Because it is important that we have law enforcement that we can trust. And there are good police officers in Toronto, in
The
Canada.
majority.
And those officers need support. Those officers need to know that they can do the right thing and that they will be protected. But it's like the thing of, as a young lawyer, the warning you get is it takes a lifetime to build a reputation and you can destroy it in a second. It takes a long time to rebuild that confidence. And really that has to be through showing yourself to be above reproach by essentially being the paladins in the situation of being, at every step, open, transparent, honest, acting with integrity, all of these essential things, and showing people that that's what you're doing, making that clear. As much as this is kind of a black mark on the force that this has been, that we've seen that this was going on, we should also say this is a step towards regaining confidence if they are actually rooting this out. And so I want to say that these arrests are a positive development. And hopefully, I want to see more of this, to be perfectly frank. I want to see more, and possibly they need to start stepping things up in terms of like investigations and, and just like do an audit of of who's pulled what information off the system and just be like, well, why are people looking these things up, right? Yeah. Why are people looking up, just look into the dispensaries and be like, okay, everybody who's pulled the names of this, the owner of this dispensary, we need to know why. Yeah. And if you don't have a good explanation, well, here's your last paycheck and we'll see you, never. So this is progress. As ugly as it is, this is what progress looks like. So
yeah.
Sheila, last word goes to you before the break.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think there should be resignations. I mean, that would be helpful. If you want to set the tone that things are going to be different and that they're taking this seriously, I think there should be resignations because the buck does have to stop somewhere. And I think it would be helpful to have an outside agency come in and investigate, whether it's the RCMP, whether it's the OPP. I don't know what that looks like. But to have these agencies investigating themselves when we don't really know who's been involved in the corruption, it seems like it doesn't go much towards the interest of rebuilding trust and transparency. 100%. Now, hey, before we go, let's give Ian a chance to tell everybody where they can find his analysis and his advocacy.
So on YouTube is the primary place, Runkle of the Bailey. So RUNKLE. If you search that, it'll auto-populate. I'm also on Twitter, just at Ian Runkle. So those are the easiest places to find me. And right now I'm really overly busy because of the gun bans. I am about like 1,000 emails deep with people with questions. So if you send me a message and you don't get an answer back right away, I am sorry, but I'm doing my best. I'm treading water on that. So,
and
Ian,
also
you're a lawyer. You're a lawyer with a job too. Remember.
And it's funny. The gun ban, in a way, ties into this, and by that I mean those police services that are signing on to confiscate guns, and many have said, "Forget it, count us out," and that is the right call. You want to destroy public trust? Be like a Gestapo agent going to law-abiding Canadians and saying, your papers, please, you have to hand in your gun. In light of this outrageous scandal, I think every police service in the country should say, we're having no part of this nonsense.
We're getting closer.
I mean, ultimately, we want police forces that we feel are on the side of the people.
Exactly.
And for a lot of gun owners, I mean, a lot of people are heartened by the police forces saying we're not on board. But, when you hear from people who are in the areas where the police are signing up, there's a real sense of betrayal. So,
Yep.
All
right. Ian, thanks so much for taking the time to give us your expert analysis on this. And thank you again from myself to you on behalf of the firearms owning community. Just thanks for your work defending our rights out there. We appreciate you. And we'll have you back on again real soon.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ian. Let's hit an ad break. We'll come back on the other side with the rest of the show.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us, Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
You like the hat? Me too. Same strong message about making Canada great again, but in a really cool color, black and gold. There's other colors available, and it's an all-Canadian site. So if you want to signal your tribe or trigger a Liberal, go to mcgahats.ca today.
Big news! Rebel News now has premium memberships on X, Locals, and right here on YouTube. For just $4.99 a month on YouTube, you'll get loyalty badges, custom emojis, and access to members-only chats during our live streams. At $8.99 a month, you'll also unlock Rebel News Plus shows and our documentaries. But here's the catch. YouTube could cancel that premium tier at any time. That's why the best way to support us is at rebelnewsplus.com. It's just $8 a month, cheaper if you go annual, and you'll get exclusive extras like an ad-free site, comments access, and even the chance to submit op-eds. Wherever you join us, thanks for keeping our independent journalism alive and strong. Okie doke. We've got a message from our friends at Rumble Wallet here before we go on. And this is so important for us Canadians because we saw our banks collude with the government to use a hacked list of names of Freedom Convoy supporters to freeze bank accounts, deny people insurance, and deny them credit if you were making an application through Farm Credit Canada. So they can freeze your accounts, shut off your cards, lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks don't protect you. They control you. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This is real physical gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. That's power. When you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, peer-to-peer and outside the banking system. No permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button, no Chrystia Freeland cackling in your ear. This wallet is yours forever. That's Rumble Wallet. So wallet.rumble.com, or you can just scan the QR code right there. All right, let's bring back David. I understand none of that, but I'm sure it's good.
You know what, Sheila, I got to tell you, I think it's a great product because
I do too.
I never dreamed that just a decade ago, Canadians would need something like that to protect their own assets, but we now know better thanks to Fraulein Freeland and the rest. But I have to admit, the more I read about cryptocurrency, the more I don't
The less I
understand.
understand. I have a 20-something son who does his best to explain it to me
Yes.
and like tell me what to buy, tell me what to sell. And I trust him because I'm sure he doesn't want to have me lose his inheritance on the Bitcoin market. So I trust his advice, but I don't understand any of it.
I'm being honest, and a few months ago, I met a fan of the show in Richmond Hill at the Off Leash Dog Park, and he's into crypto. And I said that to him, I don't understand it, and he went on a very friendly 20-minute long explanation, and he says, "Now do you get it?" And I said, "I think I'm even dumber now."
I love our people. I love our people for this because they will see me out in the real world and they'll say, "Sheila, I heard you don't understand Bitcoin." And then they'll give me like a 3-minute clinic on it. And I'm just completely vacant. Yeah. I'm like our immigration minister at committee. Like I have no idea what's going on or why I'm there.
Or the public safety minister. But Sheila, I'm not dismissing crypto. Not at all. I
know
just
something outside the banking system. Yeah. I'm with it. I don't get it. I'm too old.
Me
and
too.
I'm from the internet, so I feel like I understand enough, but I just can't. Like I want to go look at the mine, but there's no mine. Like, you know, do you know what I mean? I want to go lay eyes on something and I can't.
Well, if you're too old, that's like saying you're part of the Cretaceous era. I'm strictly Jurassic here. I go that far back.
Yes. Okay, let's get into the rest of the show. I don't know how much we're going to get to because I sort of have a heart out at the top of the hour. The New Brunswick government of Susan Holt, Suze, will no longer use X after child and youth advocate raises concern. So Premier Susan Holt confirmed Thursday afternoon the New Brunswick government will stop using the social media platform X for routine communications. Which is stupid, of course, because that's where the journalists give and find news. It's where all the commentators are. It's not for everybody, but it's where the newsmakers, the news breakers, and the influencers are. And this is Canada, sister. We can't get our news on Facebook and Meta, thanks to the Liberal government. So what are you going to do? Post it on Blue Sky? Nobody's over there but Antifa. No one's going to wander into that mad cat house and try to get some reasonable news and information from your government. So what are you doing? Also, this is not an airport. You don't have to announce your departure. No one cares, Susan.
So, Sheila, everything you've said is accurate and true. Here's my question to you. What is Susan Holt's unspoken strategy for going anti-X?
She's a liberal. This is what they do. They're anti-Elon Musk. They're anti-free speech.
Unbelievable.
And they're looking for any reason to just say, well, I hate the Americans. I hate Elon Musk. He's close to the Trump administration. And so we want nothing to do with it. But if you've ever wandered over into the absolute insane asylum known as Blue Sky, X, for all of its flaws, is a very safe place. Okay, it is a very safe place compared to the highly under-medicated users of Blue Sky.
You know, that's unbelievable. So it's Elon Musk's derangement syndrome. You know, Sheila, it's kind of like, I don't really care for Thomas Edison, so I'm going to take electricity out of my life.
Do you know what? There was a BC MLA who said that on a podcast. She said that we colonized her with a light bulb, and I'm like, well, screw them out, lady. like, no one's making you have one.
Yeah, you first.
Yeah. But yeah, this is just stupidity. This will actually hinder people's ability to get breaking information from their own government. But she doesn't care about that because she'd rather be virtue signaling, I guess. And that is Susan Holt in New Brunswick, I'll tell you that much. Her husband had a rainbow belt on the night that she won the election.
So what does that mean?
So,
well,
everything is
is he transitioning?
No, it's just everything is virtue signaling and signal boosting and showing how progressive you are, and this is just another thing. But at the end of the day, the only people who suffer are the people of New Brunswick. Like if you have a forest fire or breaking news or active shooter event, where do you go? I go to X to look because things are posted there and the news is shared fast. Yeah, this is it. Her husband shows off his pride belt.
But
because
wait a minute.
everything is virtue signaling.
Because he's married to Susan Holt, I assume he's a heterosexual man.
He's an ally.
Oh,
this
okay.
Is what they're trying to tell you.
How is this not? What's the word the left use? Cultural appropriation.
No. He's an ally, and then so they need their friends outside of their sexual choices to also support their sexual choices. Otherwise, they'll die. That's what they keep telling me. They'll just drop dead. Anyway, let's keep going. Enough of Susan Holt.
So
She's
confusing.
an insufferable lady. So yesterday on the show, we talked about Jamil Jivani. We watched a video of him, and I slightly misunderstood what was happening, but not in Jamil Jivani's efforts. I thought he was going with the Liberal government. I thought the Liberal government was sort of like, okay, let's do a smart thing to deal with the Americans for once. Let's take JD Vance's good buddy, Jamil Jivani, and try to do something to heal that relationship. No. Of course, the Liberals didn't have a good idea in dealing with the Trump administration. What was I thinking? Momentary lapse, I actually thought this was like, oh, they invited him, or they're happy that he's coming, or whatever. They're doing something right, because Jamil Jivani is a secret weapon that they should have been using from the very beginning. But no, the Liberals are big mad that Jamil Jivani met with the administration. He met with GM, which is very important because his riding is Oshawa. Mm-hmm. So his riding is very hit by the tariffs. And the Liberals now are very upset that he's eating their lunch on this issue. And all it took was somebody who doesn't hate the Americans to go talk to them.
Sheila, this is the height of hypocrisy, because I thought we've been told since the last federal election here in Canada, since we're going up against Fortress Trump, it doesn't matter if you're a prime minister or a premier. It doesn't matter your political stripes. We should all be on Team Canada. We should all be pulling together, doing whatever we can. By the way, as a side note here, I hate politicians using the term Team Canada. Team Canada to me was the 1972 hockey team.
I ain't on it, man. I ain't on it.
But the point is, Jamil Jivani is doing something, hopefully, for this country. That's a lifelong friend in the vice president. And maybe he can have some political capital. Maybe he can sway some thoughts there, pull a few strings. And because he's not part of the Carney Liberals formerly going down there, this is wrong. This is madness. And it goes against everything they've been saying these last several months.
Well, for them, Team Canada means Team Liberal.
Yes.
They don't want you doing something in the best interest of the country. Mm-hmm. Because, there are a lot of things that could be done in the best interest of the country, including unity, that they're not doing. They want you moving the liberal agenda forward. And Jamil Jivani is trying to actually do something for his riding, which would benefit the rest of the country. And why wouldn't he? That's quite literally what he was elected to do, was advance the interests of the people of Oshawa. And advancing the interests of the people of Oshawa is good for the entire country. These people won't shut up about auto tariffs. They've got the auto MP going to Washington to talk to his good buddy JD Vance. And he left with a very positive message. We'll listen to this in a second. He was left with a very positive message from President Trump, who said, "Tell the Canadians I love them." You know who never said he loves us? Mark Carney.
And Sheila, it was only, I believe, last Friday, GM in Oshawa and its supplier chain announced 1,200 layoffs. So this is serious, okay? Yeah. And that's already a devastated auto
this is
city.
Life or death for his community.
Yeah,
of course he's going. And he said, some people are not going to like this, but I don't care because it's the right thing to do. And what happened? Some people don't like this. Some people are the Liberals who are cabinet positions appointed to do the thing that he's doing, but they can't get over their anti-American elbows up BS to go do the right thing. Let's go to that video of Jamil in Washington showing proof of work, which is what we want our liberal MPs to do, but they can't because they hate the Americans for some reason.
Hello, Canada. I'm here in Washington, D.C., where I've been having some very productive, promising, and positive conversations with the White House, with the State Department, with senators representing border states that we do a lot of business with in Canada. And I got to tell you, I'm feeling hopeful and optimistic that we can get something really good done for Canadian workers and businesses. Might take some time, but I really believe that the doors are open here. Positive conversations are possible. I have made some jokes about the United States becoming Canada's 11th province. Americans don't seem that interested. They seem happy with their country, but I am really hoping that I can bring my insights and what I've learned here back to Ottawa, share them with Prime Minister Mark Carney and Minister Dominic LeBlanc, and this can be the beginning of a truly nonpartisan approach to working with the United States. This is not a partisan issue. It's not about liberals or conservatives. This is about Canadian workers and Canadian businesses and how we can make sure our economy is growing and our economy is thriving. I will be heading home tomorrow, back to Bowmanville, Oshawa North. But before then, I will be meeting with some business leaders that I'm really looking forward to hearing from, as they are job creators that employ thousands of Canadians. And I can't wait to get back home this weekend to see my wonderful niece and nephew. God bless you. God bless Canada.
Oh my God, Sheila, what a right-wing nut job. Did you hear that rhetoric? Dude. What kind of a heretic is he?
What a good guy. What a good guy. And, you know, thank God. Thank God. You know, I've been saying for the better part of a year, why are we fighting with them? Why are we fighting with them? And I guess the answer to my own question, of course, is because that's how the liberals have. They can't campaign on their record. They have to campaign against Trump. He's a one-man wrecking ball, Jamil Jivani, right into the liberal narrative that the Americans are unreasonable and they just want to crush Canada. He's going there to show that that is not the case, and we have to dial down the temperature a little bit for the sake of Canadian workers. So, you know, good on Jamil Jivani. Good for him.
100%. We should also, in your province, pertains to your province, let's throw this Premier David Eby of British Columbia defining separatists with the T word. Does he even know the definition? Let's check it out.
Within our own country to advance that conversation. And you're asking the Americans or any other government for help. I mean, that is the definition of treason. Then what actually are we standing for as Canadians? We have to defend this country. We have to fight for this country. We have to call out people who would organize with a foreign government to destroy what we hold precious and close to our hearts. That is the definition of being a Canadian, in my opinion. Within our own country to advance that conversation. And you're asking the Americans or any other government for help. I mean, that is the definition of treason. Then what actually are we standing for as Canadians? We have to defend this country.
Enough. That's enough of Premier Deputy
Sheila,
Dog.
I hate to be a nitpicker. That is not the definition of treason. And I went to the Oxford Dictionary. Here is the definition. The crime of betraying one's country, especially by attempting to kill the sovereign or overthrow the government, end quote. Does that define what those Alberta separatists were trying to do?
No, not at all. And we joined this country through a stroke of a pen. That's probably how we're going to leave it. There's no violence here. There is no sedition. And I'm not taking any lectures from a guy who has a real problem with Chinese foreign interference in the mainland and extortion gangs running amok in his province, and he seems to do very little about it. His opioids are killing Albertans, and he's doing nothing about it. His bad ideas are killing Canadians, and he's doing nothing about it. Albertans are trying to forge a different way. The only thing that we need from the Americans when we leave is a recognition that we did. Because that's how you become a formal state in the world, is if somebody recognizes you as one, then you are one. That's all we need. Every other thing done towards sovereignty will be done by Albertans for Albertans. And if I had to guess, he's real scared that if we leave, the gravy train with biscuit wheels is pulling out of the station for him, and his own province will crack in half. Because right up until Chilliwack, those people are real conservative. I think most of northern BC definitely culturally aligns with Alberta values. Yep. Those people up north, they are just an extension of the city of Grand Prairie. And so he knows that he's got a problem on his hands if Alberta leaves.
And Sheila, as an Albertan, what do you think of Stephen Crowder having your back? We have a little video clip of him. Let's see what Mr. Crowder had to say.
Just say, treason. You should be proud to be Canadian. Why? Why should I be proud to be Canadian if this doesn't resemble the country that I grew up in? That's what they're saying. They have the right to ask that question. And they have the right to determine their future.
Why be proud to be Canadian when the rest of Canada is not proud of you? You know, in Alberta, they're so browbeaten by the rest of the country, not even, joking. They really do feel a certain way about them. They feel like they're lesser than them.
It's not the same country, and I understand why they don't feel represented, and I think they should leave. Albertans, do it. And I tell you what, if you do that, the United States has your back. Just say,
we're gonna. We're gonna. Thanks. And Stephen, I watched that whole podcast yesterday I listened to it when I was out for a run. And, he talks about how, he even says, like, you probably don't want to be the 51st state, and that's okay. Like, don't want to trade one country for another. You can go your own way. You do have the ways, the means, the people, the know-how, and the economy to go your own way. But we are here, like, America will see you as a strategic asset. You're going to be just fine. And that is true. But this idea that Albertans who want to leave are bad Canadians, he is right to say that we don't recognize Canada anymore. And for many reluctant separatists, because there are a bunch of them who are just saying, like, well, look, we tried it. We tried having a Western prime minister. We tried this over and over and over again. We had Peter Lougheed. Now we have Danielle Smith. Like we have the Sovereignty Act. We've done so much, but a lot of us feel like Canadian values outside of Alberta have changed, and we are the place where those values still live, and the only way to preserve those values are from outside.
And, Sheila, you raise an interesting hypothetical question. Say that signature does go on a piece of paper solidifying the divorce of Alberta from Canada. What would you prefer, an independent nation or a 51st state? I would kind of like to see a 51st state, if only to see the Democrats go into meltdown, because those are guaranteed electoral college votes for the Republican Party, I should think.
Every time.
Yep.
I'm of the mindset that that's a conversation for much further down the road. I think Alberta should be independent. The whole point of this is to stand on our own, and not because we can't, but because we know we can. When Albertans talk about independence, it's not a threat. It's not a give me this or I'll leave, crazy ex-girlfriend, I'm going to kill myself if you don't love me anymore nonsense, like what you get out of Quebec, right? It's a promise made inward that we're capable of this, and we've always been capable of this. And if we were able to build this place to what it is, the rest is all just paperwork. And once we realize that, and I think we are, it's all uphill from there.
Also in the province of Alberta, this is so disturbing, Sheila. Alberta judge discounts violent sexual assault sentence for ex-football player with Indigenous roots. Just 2 days ago, I was guest hosting on the Ezra Levent show. My monologue was about a Toronto crack cocaine dealer who had a reduced sentence to, and by the way, has 9 children, young children.
We talked about it. Lisa and I talked about it on the live stream.
Several
9
moms.
kids And they're like, oh, how are they going to make it without their dad in jail? And I'm like, I'd love to see how much child support that guy actually pays.
Yeah. Not only that, Sheila, part of his litany of crimes was domestic violence, i.e. choking some of those mothers. I would say if I'm one of those moms, I want that son of a gun behind bars for a very long time. But here were the mitigating factors. He's black and he claims to be Métis, although could not prove it. But you know what? He tried really hard, so we'll give him a mulligan.
Fair enough.
Sheila, this is a dangerous step down the justice system, the idea of woke judges, the idea of, Lady Justice, she's wearing the blindfold so that she is completely impartial and unbiased. Now, Lady Justice in Canada, I'm sorry, is wearing a pair of X-ray glasses. This cannot be allowed to stand. I'm sorry to see it's occurring in your province, too.
Well, but this is exactly why Danielle Smith said we're going to withhold judicial funds until we are allowed to say in who's being appointed a judge in this province. Okay. That was something that she came out with earlier this week. She said, we are tired of the Liberals appointing people who do not reflect Alberta's values and our culture. And we're tired of seeing these sentences being issued by Liberal judges. And so until we get a say, à la Quebec, because this is already happening in other places, you're not getting any money from us for this stuff, which is how exactly it should be. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop until we get a greater say.
And Sheila, just consider the crime. We're not talking about shoplifting. We're not talking about some guy going out and, having a joyride with a stolen car. Violent sexual assault.
Right.
Doesn't really get much worse than that, I should think.
Right. And what of the victim, right?
Exactly.
Oh, I guess next time I'll be sexually assaulted by a white guy so I can get some actual justice in this system.
Yeah,
is that what we're telling them?
Sheila, that's a great point. How do the identity politics, how does that card game play out? If his spouse said, hey, wait a minute, I'm Indigenous, or I identify as Indigenous, which seems to be good enough for courts these days, shouldn't you now be throwing the book at him?
Well, and also, the other side won't shut up about missing and murdered Indigenous women, and it is definitely a problem, I'll tell you that. But a lot of the missing and murdered Indigenous women are being missing and murdered by Indigenous men. That's just what the statistics show.
Yep.
And so we're giving the perpetrators of this stuff reduced sentences. We should be disincentivizing this stuff. But seemingly we seem to be encouraging it through smaller sentences and healing lodges.
Absolutely bizarre. And I know you've got a hard out. We have so much on the docket. Maybe Scarlet Grace, our very own Scarlet Grace, up in Richmond Hill, where I reside. And this is nice to see. I hope they got it right. Iran's flag, the anti-regime flag, that being the lion and the sun.
You know what I love to see? And I say this as someone who is a Western supremacist. The Canadian flags. You never see those down at the left-wing protests, do you?
Oh, no. In fact, they are anti-regime revolution.
All elbows up, Team Canada, but you never see a Canadian flag at any other protests.
Oh, Sheila, why would they be? And even for the people of Iran, no. Iran was the biggest state sponsor of Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis. And I'm just, I should point out something. I hope the city got it right. I hope they put up the right flag. I was there to cover an item about 7 or 8 years ago, and it turned into such a fiasco. It was some kind of a purple flag, and they were having the city of Richmond Hill put out a press release, Sheila, saying we are raising the purple flag to show our support for violence against women. Okay, let me say that again. To show our support for violence against women.
No.
Yes.
No.
And when I questioned a couple of a counselor, what ended up happening was them running away and taking the rest of the afternoon off on stress leave.
You know, teams of communications people, and they can't even get the subject and the predicate right in a sentence.
Yeah.
You know?
So I just hope they got the right flag, the one with the lion on it. That means
We'll
you're
see.
anti-regime.
We'll see. Okay, let's get to the chat so we can wrap
Yes.
the show. It's Friday. We've got Alex Greer 7700. He became a partial premium member. Alex is a regular supporter of the show, regular viewer of the show, regular chatter, and it's nice to see him take the next step and join us as a premium member. And then we've got Sevenfold 777. Okay, $5. Where do we even begin with police corruption in this country? Government fraud, waste, and abuse is at an all-time high. Yeah, you know what? That is so true. When you've got the liberal government enriching themselves through these little corruption schemes like the procurement scandals, the Green Slush Fund, why wouldn't the police get in on the action?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, again, Sheila, I just want to point out that not all the cops are corrupt, but when you see these stories,
I like cops.
Yeah, how long? I'll give you. Last summer, I was coming back from a story in Vaughan. It was about the guy that was defending his Lamborghini by firing a shot in the air. Guess who got arrested? And there were York Regional cops there. And I'm driving along Teston Road, or I believe, and I saw on the highway, on the road, that there was something unusual. I pulled over, I ran over. It was a lady's wallet. She's from Sarnia, or was from Sarnia. Over 700 Canadian dollars and more than 300 US. And I made a U-turn and I went to the York Regional cops and I handed it in to them with my card. And I said, hey, I found this on the road. And I can tell you, she got everything. All her ID was there, driver's license, health card, and all that money, and she emailed me to thank me, so I know she got reunited. Whereas if those were corrupt cops, they just would have kept it. But they didn't. They were honest. Yeah. I was honest. It would have been nice if I got a reward. But anyway,
you shouldn't get a reward for doing the right thing.
Yeah, I know. I shouldn't think that way. At least the offer, so I could decline it. You know, it's kind of like a Seinfeldian etiquette situation here, right?
Sure.
But anyways, what I'm saying is that we still have to cling to the fact that most people are good people and they want to do the right thing.
Yeah. Olivia, can you just put me on screen so I can show people? There's an Easter egg in my studio here. Just there. See this? Okay, that's represents the RCMP. Yes. So I'm not anti-cop by any stretch. I'm anti-bad cop. I'm especially anti-bad cop and anti-lazy cop because they trade on the reputations of the good cops who work really hard, who go to our gun ranges and who are just like us and who vote conservative and who want to leave this country too if they're Albertan. And I hate the fact that the bad cops get away with their bad things because those good cops are working hard in our communities.
Yep.
Yeah. Throw the book at the bad cops. Throw 2 books at them, then put them under the jail. Granite Man 62 gives us $2, says Picton investigations mishandled by VPD and the RCMP. Yes, that is true. They were happy to enjoy those jurisdictional issues where they didn't have to talk to each other. Why? Because those women were the less dead.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
You know, Sheila, I never... maybe it's because I've never been part of law enforcement, but what is this nonsense with jurisdictional issues? Isn't everybody with a badge on team good? You know, they want the crime solved? Or is this just a selfish human nature thing of somebody wants to get credit for breaking the case?
I don't know. And I think that sort of was before the times when computers talked to each other.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then you've got, as I said, you're dealing with the less dead. Nobody reports them missing because nobody cares if they're living or dead. They don't check in with their family. And so on some level, you're like, why even bother looking?
Yeah.
Why, but they are still human beings at the end of the day. Alex Greer says, sadly, Canada is a country of no consequences. It depends. Depends on where your politics are, I guess. Just ask Tamara Leach.
But Sheila, I go back a while, and I'll tell you, once upon a time, if there was a minister confronted with the whiff of a scandal, it might not even be true. It was de rigueur to tender your resignation.
Bev Oda. Bev Oda and her $16 orange juice. But the difference with Bev Oda and everybody else is Bev Oda was a conservative, and conservatives could not abide that $16 orange juice. The pressure was internal on Bev Oda. But when you've got liberal scandals all over the place, Chrystia Freeland having her limo chase her plane to pick her up at the airport when she's going back and forth between Montreal and Ottawa, and everyone's like, she's got little legs. What do you want her to do? Walk? Like, it's just, it's stupid. It's because the Liberals have no principles. Alex Greer 7700 also gives us $2.79 and a thumbs up. So thanks, Alex. I think that's the show, David, if you wouldn't mind wrapping up.
All right. Yeah, I don't think we have a cringe video, or did we show it earlier?
No, I'll show 3 on Monday. I love the weekends. The cringe
I think
really
we already
rolls
covered
in.
it off with Premier Eby talking about treasonous Alberta. If that doesn't make it cringe, folks, we got
that
nothing.
Makes those. Every time David Eby calls us names, a little separatist angel gets its wings. Like, I hope he never stops.
There you go. That's Sheila Gunn Reid's version of It's a Wonderful Life. And Sheila, thank you for subbing for Drea, who's on assignment right now. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in, especially thanks to all of those who gave us a super chat. That's how we keep the lights on. I want everybody to have a wonderful weekend. And I'll be back here, I believe, with Sheila Gunn Reid on Monday. Until then, stay safe and stay sane.